Hello and welcome to tonight's Get in Tune. I'm Michael Gracia. I got a fun show planned. We already got a couple of comments. All right, Dylan, hello. Thank you for tuning in. The guest tonight, his name is Derwin Roberson. We're going to bring him on in a minute. Fantastic artist, known him for years. Love his stuff. But before we do, for anyone out there who is an artist, a writer, a podcaster who's watching, anybody who what's the word I'm looking for, is into publishing, whatever it is, there's this great group called Global Indie Group. GIG for short, and I'm just going to play a short little video telling you about them. So check that out. All right, check out globalindiegroup.com. It is a great place. Let's see, what do we got going on in the comments? Derwin, okay, that's the name. I don't know. Okay. So you know what? I already introduced who the guest was. Let me just bring him on. But I will say this fantastic artist. I'm going to show some of his work in a little bit, and I am obsessed with the colors, the emotion this guy gets in his stuff. So let's bring on Derwin Roberson. Hello.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. Did I get the name right?
You got it.
Awesome. I'm terrible with that stuff. You know what I did forget to do though, and I forgot to put up my whiz for today. It's Whiz Wednesday. So let me just show you today's whiz. I'll hold it up on the screen for about a minute, and then we're going to
go ahead
to what's the word I'm looking for? Get it down and talk about this wonderful work you do here. So let me just full screen it so people can see it. And oops. All
right. I like it.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right, I see that.
If you're a Conan fan, you might also know where that line.
Yeah.
Well, he's got I forget, was it in the Conan the Barbarian? I think it was, where they're like, what is like,
what is best in life?
Yeah, best in life. And he's like, to crush your enemies, and so and that's
see the job before you hear the lamentations of the women. Yes.
Yeah. So I made sure I'm a big Conan fan.
I see that. Yeah. I see that.
I'm sure you can look around. If I showed around my studio, you could see that I'm a big fantasy person to begin with.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, it's first of all, it's great to have you on. So thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having
me. Been looking forward to talk to you for a while. Like I said, I'm a big fan of your work. There's this in your imagery. There's this emotion. There's this emotion that you capture. Your use of colors. It's obvious you have a love for anime / manga. I don't know if there's one or the other that you prefer. But we're gonna get to that. But yeah, it's just fantastic. And I got to tell you, there's this one piece, and I wish I looked it up to see if it was on your social media. There is a Flash piece that you did. I think he's running on water.
Yeah.
That to this day is my most favorite piece I've ever seen. Like, I'm upset you're not drawing for DC right now.
Thank you. Well, you tell DC that. Anybody out there, you feel free
Yeah.
to call them up and let them know, or email them, let them know that you should hire me. I'm available. But thank you. That Flash picture was an homage to a poster I had that Mike Ringo did back in the 90s. And one of my regrets in life is I never got to meet him before he passed.
Yeah, me
And
neither.
I had that poster on my wall for about 19 years. And circumstances happened. I lost the poster, had to move. And good luck finding that poster again. I saw it like online. This guy was selling it for $300. And I was like, maybe one day, it's because it's an incredibly rare piece. But the Flash is my favorite character. Nova's a close second. And so anytime any chance I get to draw the Flash, I jump at it. I just did one, and it's up on my Instagram if anybody wants to see it, and I'll have that on my next show.
Yeah, we're gonna be showing your Instagram in a little bit, because it's one of the few ways to really talk about what you're doing. But it's in you. So Flash and Nova, are your two. That's interesting. I've heard Flash a lot of times. I don't hear Nova too often, which is really cool, because I'm a sci-fi guy as well.
Okay.
And my favorite Marvel character is actually Quasar. But like classic Quasar.
Okay.
And no one ever does anything good with Quasar. It's so upsetting.
Not since the 90s. That was his time. The 90s, man. The book, and I did the one issue. McFarlane did the cover. Now this is cosmic. He's flying, and the shortening and stuff. Yeah, a really good friend of mine. He was really, really into Quasar. We used to collect comics together in the 90s, and he was adopted, so his mother got money from the state farm, so he always had money to burn. And we would literally go to the comic book store and go through like $100 worth of comics. It was a great friend to have when you're a kid.
Oh my God, that's a great friend. Absolutely.
Comics cost about 75 cents to $1 each. That's a lot of comics.
I remember that. Yeah, I started collecting '89, so I think they were $1, maybe $1.25 at the most.
At that point, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I read comics before, but I remember I was 13 years old, and that's when I said, "Dad, I need a ride to the comic shop, but first I gotta find one," and that's because I have family. They were in Brooklyn at the time, and there was a comic shop like a couple of blocks from their house, and my cousin took me one day, and I was like in heaven. It was like, what do I buy? What do I spend money on? And it was fun, because my older cousin read comics, and one of the first stories I ever read in completion because of him was Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Oh, that's a good one to start with.
Yeah, and I knew those characters because of the cartoons, Super
Friends.
Loved all that stuff. And I always loved the DC characters more than Marvel. That was just my go-to. So like when I saw that, and you see that the cover of Superman holding Supergirl, and you're like, what the heck's going on? And you want to go back and read everything. My God.
Oh yeah.
Oh, but I also read Secret Wars through him.
Yes, because it's great. And when you're a kid, you have no company bias. You're just like whatever. You take it all in. It's only when you become you get older and become social currency like music, and I'm with this crew, and stuff. I personally like both. I prefer DC a bit more because I like the Flash, right? And let's just put it like this. I remember when Avengers 2 was coming out. The first thing when they announced it, when I heard it was going to be an Ultron story, I said, "Oh God," because everybody hates Ultron, right? But then I was like, okay, so I literally was walking up to the theater. Spoilers if anybody hasn't seen Avengers 2 by now.
It's okay, you don't have to. They saved it with other Avenger movies.
That's true. And so literally, I was so salty walking to that theater, and my friends were like, "Why are you so mad?" I was like, "Look, I'm just here to see how Quicksilver gets disrespected, because we called him the Expendable Avenger. That's what he was in the comic book, right?"
Yes, he was.
And when they killed him, I said, yeah, it's about right." I have literally spoken to people at Marvel that work at Marvel, and they say that these guys are like, "Yeah, well, super speed is such a cheap power. We don't like writing it, right?" But they love the reality altering psychics. They have like 12 of them. They love the kid from Twilight Zone. I forgot the episode.
Oh, the one with
The
Bill Mooney there, or whatever you say his name, where he's taking away the mouths and stuff.
yeah, and he turns them into the rabbit and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's like there's a lot of writers who are in love with that kid.
Yeah.
And so if you look at a lot of Marvel, you see that character over and over and over and over again in Marvel Comics. Franklin Richards is that kid,
Yeah.
Legion is that kid. You see it. X-Men is that kid. It's Nathan Summers is that kid. I'm like, so I have no problem with you liking that, but don't say that super speed is cheap and it's not fun to write. I mean, that's the same crap.
I will say this. I don't hate super speed, but that episode of Justice League Unlimited where where they switch his minds with Lex Luthor and Lex and you see what Lex can do.
Yes.
Tapping into the Speed Force, you're like, no, this is not a cheap power. This is one of the most dangerous powers out there,
And it's hilarious because the Peter David established the trope when he did Young Justice. He said he had to make Bart an idiot, otherwise he would solve all the problems himself. And when they did the Justice League, you go to the commentary, and Bruce Timm even says the joke was if Wally was half as smart as a normal person, he'd be the most powerful superhero in the universe. So he had to be done. That's it. They literally said that that was their chance to show what would it be like if he was, just use his powers. And then the episode actually came up because they realized that they had Lex Luthor and Lex Luthor in the studio together. They had Clancy Brown, Lex Luthor from the animated series, and Michael Rosenbaum, Lex Luthor from Smallville. They said, this writes itself. And they went with it.
Yeah. No, that was great. And I gotta say, even though my all-time favorite superhero is Superman, right?
Yeah.
I have my Dr. Fate shirt on. He's in my top 5 there. Green Lantern, Nightwing, like all those characters like that on the DC side. But when it came to the Justice League cartoon and Justice League Unlimited, the Flash was my favorite character. The way they handled him, I think he was handled the best character. That episode where it's going to be Flash Day, and and he just goes into the bar and talks to the trickster.
Yeah,
I mean, like it was just like it just showed a complete different side than all those other heroes because none of them would have thought like that.
Nope. And the current writer on not to plug that book, but the current writer in the Flash is doing a fantastic job. They brought Wally back because there were some issues going on where the guys in charge did not like Wally or Dick Grayson. That's the story. But
Dick's in charge now, so
yeah, there you go. But the current writer, he's brought it back to that because Wally's such a relaxed guy, and his thing is he's like, yeah, I'll talk. Why not talk? So he's the hero and that's what I like about him is that if this guy's robbing a place, he's like, well, why are you robbing this place? What's going on in your life? What brought you here? Let's work something out. I'm going to beat you. That's not an issue. Let's try to solve your overarching problem. Don't make me fight you if I have to. And that's as you said, it's unique amongst superheroes. You don't see that often.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to check out the Flash book. I haven't read mainstream in years. I'm being an indie guy myself, and I'm one of those people. I haven't liked the way mainstream books have been going, so I kind of gave up on mainstream and really just focus on indie stuff. But I will say this: if you could get me into a DC book, I will read it. I will give anything a chance. And unfortunately, my local comic shop closed down, which was the Spider's Web. That was one of the saddest days. So I got to find a new store locally, or I might have to take a trip into the city, I guess. I don't know, and hit like Midtown. But yeah, I got to find a new store to be buying some of my books at and seeing what's going on in the DC because they just finished. What was it? One of the whatever crisis it was, and now
I know it's another one. Like I said, let me not get myself in trouble.
No. But I will say this: I picked up a Justice Society issue.
Okay,
and I think I bought it like the last day the Spider's Web was open, and it was they were using Helena. I think Wayne,
the Huntress.
Yeah, the Huntress State was, but I think it was Helena Wayne, so it was like from Earth 2 coming in and all this stuff going on. And I gotta say, I only read that issue because it was the only one I got my hands on. But it looked like it was setting up for something very interesting. So if I can find a couple of those issues, I will pick them up and
Go
continue.
for it. You know, I'll hit you up in private, and if I can direct you, then that's fine. You know,
awesome.
But I do highly recommend you pick up the Flash. The current writer is, and he's, I forget his name, escapes me at the time. But yeah, it's really good. It's brought a lot of the fun, and it's just a lot of really crazy, wacky one-off stories.
That's great. And just to sidetrack for a second more, another book I picked up a few weeks before the Spider's Web closed down was a Superman book.
Okay.
And it was like, I guess it was a one-off before they were getting back to Superman coming back. It was a Superman story that kind of like told Clark's childhood, learning about how to actually behave, and that people, not everyone goes through the same things that you go through, and other people's lives might be a little more difficult. But they were mirroring it with Mongol's childhood. And Mongol's one of my favorite Superman villains. Everyone talks about, let's give Brainiac a chance, and I want to see Superman go up a War World story. I just want, I want that. I just want to see Superman beating the heck out of Mongol and whatever. But I really loved what they were doing. That I don't know if they continued it in any of the Superman books after. Right. Because I'm like, wow, I just want to know more now about Mongol's past.
Okay. I will look for it then.
Yeah. It's not behind me. Otherwise, I just put stuff away. I usually keep them on the table behind me, and just pull stuff out and read when I have a chance. But yeah, no, it was a really good book. But we are kind of sidetracking here. Yes. Before we get into this stuff, I want to know about you. So obviously, the Flash is your favorite character. But who were your influences? What were you reading? What got you into drawing? Those are the type of things I want to know right now.
All right. So grab a drink. Okay. So I started drawing, like, I think I drew my first picture in kindergarten, and me and this other kid in school, we drew like a dinosaur mural. And growing up, I was always interested in drawing, but I was never very good at it. I would get frustrated easily. And I was always getting these, how to draw books. And I think I was around like 10 or 11, got like a how to draw. God, was I that young? It was like how to draw Robotech book, right? At one time. Yeah, this is way back in the day. And then there was a how to draw Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles book I had. Yep. And my upstairs neighbor collected comic books. And so I started seeing comics. His collection, he was a mostly Marvel guy, and he had a lot of like stuff from the 70s, Laugh Olympics and stuff like that. But he had X-Men. So I started reading X-Men, and once he started reading X-Men, and I read Wolverine, the limited series, and I was like, oh man, you become a Wolverine fan. And I got the Marvel Universe, and I was trying to draw it. Just a lot of frustration. And I think for me, the big breakthrough, and you see this mirrored in a lot of kids nowadays, right? When I started when I found out, met this guy. He passed away last year, unfortunately. But he was one of my oldest friends. I was like 12 or 13. He was 15.
Man, I'm sorry to hear.
And I know it was rough, but he changed my life because he comes up to me one day. I get introduced to him. He says, "Yo, I have Robotech the movie. Remember, Robotech was the big thing back then." And there was a whole thing about the rumor of the Robotech movie, but it never came out. And so I went, and it was literally, everybody had a British accent. The characters had these weird names, Hikaru Ichijo instead of Rick Hunter, Misa Hayase, stuff like that. Yeah. And that's when I realized, wait, this is a Japanese thing, and there's a difference? Hold up. And wow, this is badass. This is like, and it was the Macross Do You Remember Love movie, right? And so he had that. It was dubbed in Hong Kong, so everybody had a British accent. And it changed my life. And so then hanging with him, he was the one who used to get the comic books together. We would went to my first comic book convention, and I went to the comic book convention because I wanted some Japanese animation, right? Mm-hmm. I needed more. I needed this good stuff. And this is back when Viz was doing Area 88 and
Okay, I'm
What you
trying to think
call
of
it?
the time. Yeah.
Gray. It was very Area 88 and Gray. Dark
Mm.
Horse was doing, not Dark Horse. Marvel was publishing Akira under the Epic line or something like that. I forgot, but yeah. So they were calling it the Japanese invasion, right?
Mhm.
And it wasn't just that. It was also when I found out that all these shows I loved were Japanese, like Voltron, and then I found out Voltron is Go Lion and the Transformers, of
Yeah.
course. That's the thing. And so I started getting that, and so I had this, my adolescence where I was reading all these American comics, and I was doing everything I could to get all the Japanese stuff I could. And this is, back when you get a half an hour tape that cost $30 with no subtitles.
Yeah.
Yes, so you were watching it, right? And I used to pause and I would analyze the animation and the shots, and I would do that, and then
Wait. Can you hold on?
yeah.
Just a couple of things.
Mm.
Number one, you just said you used to pause and what you were drawing off the screen, basically.
Uh-huh. I would look at the screen and not even
Wait,
copying so much. That came later. It
yeah.
was more like I was seeing the intricacies, the little things they did, and
Yeah.
how there was so much going on that you might never see,
Yeah.
and the little in jokes the animators would put into frames and stuff. Like in Macross, there's when Hikaru's flying in the last battle and he fires a stream of missiles. If you put it in slow motion, some of the missiles are painted as beer cans.
Oh,
Budweiser beer cans. Yeah,
that's
little
hysterical.
things the animators would
Because
do.
I want to say this. Number one, that's how I taught myself how to draw. I used to record
Okay.
like Saturday morning cartoons.
Yeah.
Buy those VHS tapes, play
Mhm.
them, pause them, and draw what I saw on the
Oh
screen.
yeah.
So a
Yeah.
lot of my style is very like, especially in my superhero stuff, is very
Mhm.
80s animation.
Mhm.
Looking at like Bionic 6 and all those type
Oh
of
yeah.
cartoons.
That
But
stuff. Mm.
but the other thing
Yeah.
I wanted to say was my goal was to be an animator. So I
Okay.
actually used to do what you do, play it back in
Mm.
slow motion, and I tried to figure out how
Mm.
animation worked
Gotcha.
by how they were like slow, and it was hard to tell because it still
Yeah.
moved a little too fast. I
Yeah.
mean, it wasn't until I was in, I think, 7th or 8th grade when I got
Mm.
this book on Chuck Jones. Was called Chuck Amuck, and
Oh, I know that book.
and
Yeah.
and it had the little flip book
Uh-huh.
through it of the Roadrunner and Coyote, and
Uh-huh.
that's when I saw, holy crap, it's this drawing all these sequential stuff, and I was like, okay, so that's when I really got into it. But
Yeah. Mhm.
but yeah, and I don't know if you know this, just because you mentioned Transformers,
Yeah.
but they have released the Japanese
Really?
Transformers manga in collections now, in obviously in English.
Yeah.
So what a lot of people don't know is when the show ended in
Uh-huh.
America, it continued
Kept
in Japan.
going. Oh
So
yeah.
once you pass the American stories in the manga, you're gonna
Uh-huh.
have the Japanese stories.
Yeah, yeah, like in Japan, how Six Shot was a ninja in
Mhm.
Japan. He was a ninja advisor,
Yeah.
Yeah, and because I had a couple of dubbed in Hong Kong episodes of that. I will tell you this right, and well, I'll tell you that there's one Transformers comic, Japanese comic you should avoid at all costs. It's
Okay.
called Kiss Players. Don't look it up. I'm just
Okay.
telling you now. You don't want you're one of these like, how did this get approved? And it's an official Transformers comic in Japan. It's just one you just like, no, this is that. No.
Yeah.
But for me, it wasn't that. But so, and this is where the DNA comes from, is that I really wanted to draw comics at that point. I decided I wanted to draw comics. And I got How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way.
Yep. Got that book.
And so it didn't really hit me until like, in 1988 when it came out with the video. And I was like, oh, and to me, so for me, it's not about being Japanese style or American style. It's like, does this work or does this not work? And
Yeah.
so I just took what I loved from both, because I said both styles do things that I really like, and I see why they do them, and I just take what works from both of them, and then
Yeah.
when I was in my 20s, I was introduced to a guy who become like my heterosexual life mate. His name is Kazuo Matsushima, right? And he was from Japan. He was studying at Pratt in Manhattan, the Pratt Institute.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, and I'm sitting there talking to him, and I'm like, so, what kind of manga do you like? He says comics. And so, well, he said, manga just means comics. That's all it means.
Yeah.
Right. And anime is short for animation. We call Disney anime in Japan. I said, oh. And so it taught me not to fetishize, so because what happened is a lot of people, and this you see this a lot with the young people nowadays, is on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being the worst, 10 being the best, right? They think if a picture is Japanese style, well, it gets like 4 points, you
Yeah.
know. So no, it still sucks. It's still a 3,
Yeah.
Weak is weak. A weak composition is a weak composition.
Yeah.
And just to keep moving forward here is as I grew up, I wanted to draw comics, and I never went to art school. I'm completely self-taught. I tried to get an art design. They rejected me, and I still hold it against them. And but what happened is I would go to comic conventions, and I was showing my portfolio, and I was getting really good advice from people. They're so nice. I mean, I tell people, anybody listening, just if you have questions, go up to people at comic conventions and show them portfolio. 9 times out of 10, they're going to be nice to you. Editors will yell at you, but
yeah. Well, I will share a quick story
sure.
with you. When I was 16 years old,
Mm-hmm.
I went to, I think it was my first actual con, like the first real con I went to, and I brought a small portfolio. And the first person I showed it to tore me a new one.
Wow.
I will say this. He was listen. No. He was probably right with a lot of what he said.
Yeah.
However, the way it was, the way it was presented to me was very rude.
Okay.
Then a few, after he just basically made me feel like I should never pick up a pencil again.
Wow.
I spoke to another guy. I don't know if you know Alex Simmons.
I've heard of him.
Alex is a friend of mine. He runs Kids Comic Con. But back then, I didn't know him other than, he was at and he asked to look at my portfolio. And he says, listen, you need to work on some things. You're not at professional level. And he told me something, and this is something I've shared with all my students and just want to remind them. Sometimes people will see your potential and try to knock you because you could be competition for them.
Yes.
Now, I will never say who that person is, but we are connected on social media. We have friends in common. We have met at shows, and he truly now you know it's a he, but he truly loves my my cartoony work because he doesn't do cartoony work and really appreciates people who could do it, like appreciates that stuff. So before the pandemic happened, a friend of mine and me and him were walking around New York Comic Con, and he sees his friend who is this guy who has no clue. And that time I showed him his work, and after that he's been following me on different social media. I love it.
Isn't it always the way? It does not pay to ever be rude. It really doesn't. It's like, because I will say this, right? Because I've done so many comic conventions now. The lanyard pile is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And I've done comic conventions, I've done anime conventions, and there is a bit of a different atmosphere, right, between the two of them. Because when you go to an anime convention, everybody's kind of cutthroat and everybody's kind of at their, got the knives out and stuff like that. When you go to a comic convention, it tends to be a bit more amongst the artists. And this is not amongst the patrons, right? The patrons are fine. This is amongst people in Artist Alley, to be clear. And you're going to see everybody's a lot nicer because, and I this is my opinion, I think it's because when you're at an anime convention, almost all the artists there, they're just like, well, I'm an amateur. I'm doing this for a little while, and I don't think I'm ever going to work at a company. This is just for now, and everybody else is my competition. When you're at a comic convention, you're like, I might be working with that person next week, so let me not, let me not make anybody mad. You have to, because you never know who you're going to be working with.
I will say this: if you watched my show last night, I had Fugitive Poems on, you guys. By the way, Fugitive Poems, great 2 groups, Christian DiMatteo, James Lines. They're doing anthologies. It's called Containment Breach. It's up on Kickstarter. Check it out. It's not for kids. It's definitely R-rated. But it's the people they get working on this stuff, the type of stories they do. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
All right. But I did say last night on the show, I talked to maybe one or two people from college that are non-artists. Maybe one from, I don't even think I talked to anyone from high school. All my friends have come out of business and being in the comic business, and mostly indies, because that's the world I travel in.
Yeah.
But they are, it's everybody's like the nicest people, the most encouraging people. We all want to see everybody succeed. It's like if one succeeds, we all succeed type of mentality. No one gets jealous of each other, at least not to my knowledge.
Yeah, not to your face or not to
yeah, it's all it's it's all great stuff.
Because you never know who you're going to be working with. I've been yelled at by one person, right? And it was because I was at San Diego Comic-Con, and I went there. It was a great trip because my Kaz came from Japan. Kazuo came from Japan. We met another really good friend of mine. I won't say their names, but we shared a hotel room, and one of the person shared a room, like my other friend had been at Marvel for like 13 years, 14 years.
Okay.
Yeah, everybody I know is like Marvel, DC adjacent. It's never me though, right? I never get picked. But anyway, and the other person was an editor at Marvel for like 12 years. And so I got to pick his brain, and we talked about things and stuff like that. And it was at that show that I went around. You go to San Diego Comic-Con. This is your big break. The first day we spent there, we sat there for portfolio reviews, and I said, "Man, this is BS. We're out." Right? I grabbed Kaz, I dragged them out, and we just started walking around the show floor, showing our work to people, stuff like that. And I went to this one booth, and all the artists loved my work. And then their editor came out, and he proceeded to like start yelling at me. And it was like jarring, and I was just like, and you can see the look on all his artists' faces. They were all like so embarrassed, right? And he's like, and then you're too old, and you're doing this, and you're doing that. And I was just like, and I said, okay, I hear what you're saying. Can I maybe take a few months to work on incorporate things you said, and then show you stuff? He says, no, you're not going to change my mind. I said, oh, all right. So this ain't about me. You're having a bad day. I'm just gonna close up my stuff. Thank you very much, and I'm gonna walk off. And that really messed with me, but it does happen. But I realized this ain't about he's pissed off at something else.
Yep.
I'm catching it. That's fine. I'm gonna go over here. And the irony is that on 3 separate occasions now, I've been involved in projects that he was involved, and I've gotten to go, oh, what's up? And I've never been like, I will work with him. I'm like, no, he's paying extra. But he did tell me something. He said, you don't draw your characters into each other, and you don't draw backgrounds of that. So now I draw the living hell out of backgrounds, and I always try to find a way to make my characters, from 2 characters, I want them relating to each other and talking to each other and stuff. So I took that advice to heart.
I'm sorry, give me 1 second.
No problem.
My work computer is hooked up to my speaker, and I forgot my Discord is still on. I hear Discord in the background. Okay, I just unplugged it. I work remote. My computer, my day job is right next to my art workstation that is right here. So
I got you.
But yeah. Anyway, I'm sorry. So you never got into who some of your influences were.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so, no. Listen, dude, we're talking.
So my artistic influences. I mean, Bart Sears was a big one on me back in the '90s. Jim Lee a bit. From the American side, it would definitely be a lot of Bart Sears, a lot of Jim Lee, a lot of Scott McDaniel. He was, because he did his work on Nightwing, and it was very flowy, and I loved it. It's just so many. There's too many to count. On Japan and the Japanese side, it's of course Miura, Kentaro Miura. I mean, the Berserk. I mean, he was the rest in peace.
Yeah,
I always tell people Berserk is one of the best comics I've ever read, and Kaz got me into that. And I didn't like it at first because the artwork looked so like weird, but then I was like, oh my god, he's a genius. And Kubo Tite, Bleach. He's another one. He started this boom in Japan for the depth of field where everybody's doing foreshortening and stuff like that. So that, they attribute that to him. And there's just literally like, oh my god, Street Fighter is probably the biggest influence on my art style. The art where like Bingus, Akiman, and stuff like that. Because like I was saying before, I did start when I got Street Fighter came out. Street Fighter 2 came out as a Super Nintendo. I would pause it and I would learn that, and that's how I would copy, and that's how I learned. As helped me in my anatomy and stuff. And it wasn't the best, but but it got me to learn form. And so yeah, they are probably the biggest influence on my art style. So there's the subtle thing they do where you could always tell a Street Fighter because from the background characters because their proportions. They draw them with superhero proportions, but they give them enlarged hands and feet so they can you can read the animation well, right? And so my figures, I do a bit of Street Fighter's proportions. I give them slightly larger hands and feet, on purpose for that. And yeah, so they're probably like one of the biggest. And when it comes to motion, because they put so much detail in even when you pause them, you can see that because another thing they do is that there's a rule Capcom has where every single frame of animation must have some part of the body turn 30 degrees toward the camera.
Okay.
Every single frame. So that way it looks like they're popping off of the screen, no matter what. Even if it breaks the form, you have to do it. And I try to capture a bit of that there. I try to capture that energy. Oh, of course, Bastard. Hagiwara, Bastard. I can't. He's one of my all-time favorites. There's literally so many different things. And of course, Toriyama, Dragon Ball. But I purposely try to not draw like him because that is so common and so many people copy his style. And I says, you know what? I just don't want any of his influence in me. But I will say it's amazing when you read Dragon Ball how he could do depth with no screen tone. It's just all the blacks. I don't know how he does it. It's good.
I will say this because I want to get to just one of the comments. Just Dylan asks, "What's the comic called?" I don't know which one he missed that you were mentioning, but we'll get back to that. Sure. But now, like I said, I've taught for a while. I'm not really teaching much now. I still do on occasion, but I always had a rule in my class, and people thought I hated like anime and manga because of it. Yeah. My rule was you're not allowed to draw anime manga style because that's all people did, and I wanted my students to be versatile,
well-rounded,
But that didn't mean I didn't enjoy it and I didn't love it. And at the time I wasn't watching a lot of manga back in the late I'd say 2000s. I never got into Dragon Ball. I never got into that stuff, but I started reading more manga. Probably around 2008 or 9 I started, and now it's one of my go-tos. Like I just if I go to a store, I look for the manga section more than I look for American comics because the storytelling, in my opinion, right now at the moment is just better,
much stronger because they take their time, and that's the main thing. Like when you look at stuff from the 70s, 80s. It is amazing how much story they tell in an American comic in the 22 pages they have. And you don't feel like it's rushed. It's just good. But now, it's just they talk and they talk and they talk and they talk and it's just talking. And then if you're lucky, you get a fight and the fight usually has nothing to do with what's going on and nothing interesting happens. It's like you literally get script that says, and they fought. I don't care. Just make up something. You're like, that's not helping, bro. Because it's like, well, I'm not gonna get myself in trouble. Let's leave it at that. Let's just say that, right now in a lot of Japanese books, you're getting a true sequential storytelling experience, right? You're not getting what's trying to be like a TV show, basically. A lot of American comics now, it's like they're trying to be episodic TV and not comic books. For example, it's like in a TV show, you only have a certain budget for special effects. So, you're going to have that one big special effects shot. And they're kind of writing for that instead of going, no, this is a comic book. You have an effectively unlimited special effects budget. Well, let's go crazy.
I want to say this. I think a lot of what happened with the boom of the comic book movies, specifically with Marvel, has changed how stories are being told it happened before. Everybody thought, hey, I'm going to buy a comic property, so people went into making comics thinking that they were going to get a show or something out of it. And here's the thing, comics to me is the greatest storytelling medium because you're limited to your skill with your pencil and your imagination. If you could draw it, you could take the person there. That's it. And I'm a big strip fan, even over books. I grew up reading comic strips. I love the Phantom. I love. You can even see him behind me. I don't know if you can tell, but you know, if I just move over to the side there, I got the Phantom. I got the Rocketeer. I got GI Joe stuff there. I'm a big GI Joe fan. A bunch of Superman, Birdman. Hell, I got a giant Dino bank from the Flintstones behind me, but the what was I trying to say? Those type of stories, and what people don't realize, and this is what I used to talk about sometimes in certain classes I was teaching. When movies were becoming popular, and what did they go to? They went to the strips. Back in the 30s and in the 40s, the strips, these cartoonists were celebrities. Even the big celebrities in Hollywood were reading the strips and getting excited for them. And you would get these movie serials of Captain Marvel, Captain America, the Phantom, Dick Tracy, Blondie, whatever it was, they were pulling from the strips, and they were just enhancing what was in the paper. And so when books became popular, and then we got a Superman and Batman and whatever, and people were making those, and even though some of them aren't as PC as they could be these days, they weren't bad interpretations of the character at the time, and then you get these movies coming out all throughout, the Chris Reeve Superman really changed stuff. The 89 Batman. People knock me on this, but dude, I love the Dick Tracy movie from the 90s. I love the Phantom movie from the 90s. I love the Shadow movie from the 90s.
Really?
I think all those movies are just are very underrated films. I think they're some of the best comic book films that were made, actually.
Yes, I can see that.
But now with modern technology, with all this stuff we have, we could produce a much better quality film than what we saw back then. And storytelling changed. I have a rule with my comics. I do everything family friendly. Basically, my rule is if you wouldn't see it in Star Wars or Batman the Animated Series, it wouldn't appear in my book. And one of the things that I will say is Batman the Animated Series did change storytelling on TV that kind of adjusted into the comic world as well.
Yeah, in fact, it inspired a couple of writers. I won't name drop them, but they got into superhero writing because of the animated series and the animated stuff. And when you always ask people, and they'll tell you what's your favorite version of these characters, they'll usually go to the animated series, the Bruce Timm verse, we call it. And it's good. My thing is that I don't have my problem with the movies now is you're not watching the characters. You're watching those actors wearing the characters' costumes because they change the characters' personalities to suit the actor's charisma. You're not watching Thor, you're watching Chris Hemsworth screw around on screen, right? That's what you're getting. And so to me, you're not getting that comic book experience anymore. But I mean, that's a whole other, whole other conversation.
But you also, and then I'm going to go to two comments in there. When you look at these comic book movies, a lot of the times you're not being told that these are comic books. Like you could actually go to your local store and pick up, a Captain America and continue what you like on the screen. They don't tell you that. And then
they're not interested.
But when they do go to the store and they find out, hey, this isn't the Captain America from the screen, I'm going to put it down. So there's this disconnect.
You got it.
And at the end of the day, like I'm tired of a lot of superhero stuff in film. In film, honestly, I haven't seen Wakanda Forever. I haven't seen the new Ant-Man. I don't care. I haven't watched a lot of the new Star Wars stuff. I haven't seen Andor. I haven't seen Bad Batch. I haven't seen any of that. And it's not that I don't have an interest in it. I just don't care right now because the stories aren't captivating enough for me on what I'm seeing on screen. So I'm like, I don't even have the urge to give it a try.
Mm-hmm.
But I can go pull one of those DC showcases behind me
Mm-hmm.
and sit down for an hour and read some of the most fun I'll have in a long time, and it'll be better than what I'm seeing on TV, in my opinion.
Yeah,
You know?
it's a part of it is like, are we getting old? Are we getting jaded and stuff like that? That's why I like why I taught also, as you know, for a while, and I would always experiment, and I would always show my students stuff from the 70s and 80s, and I would
Yep.
see what they like. And you always get the things where they like it. If you give them a chance to sit down and you show it to them, and it's always something that, you know, you would get told by the suits, oh, they won't like this. It's like, no,
Yeah.
they do like it if you just give them a chance. It's that you don't want to make this. It's that's the difference. You know, you don't want to do stuff like this. They think the artist is going to get bored. They think they like, how do we get this in there? I mean, it's the you come up against the comic book versus the studio, right? You know, the comic book is the comic book tropes versus studio. I mean, it's like studios hate masks because they're like, we paid all this money for this actor's face. We need to see the actor's face, but you're like, but the character wears a mask. So the first thing that happens in superhero movies is that mask has got to go. There's another thing, it's a very subtle thing, is that they hate sashes. So you've got two prominent characters on the movie screen now whose costumes, they're iconic for their sashes, but they're like, we're not doing a sash because we got to animate that and we got to, it's Black Adam and Captain Marvel, That's why I was like, whatever you said about the movie, I was like, look, I want my damn sash.
Well, you're talking also, when you say Black Adam, you're talking, Captain Marvel, you're talking Shazam Captain Marvel?
No, I'm talking the Marvel Captain Marvel, yeah. The DC's officially changed his name to Shazam now.
Yeah, like, I know. I still call him Captain Marvel.
I know, so do I but dumb. So I mean Carol Danvers, and almost every iteration of her costume except the first one has had that sash, and I'm like, where's my damn sash? It's kind of it's like, in Birds of Prey they have Black Canary without her leather jacket. I'm like, how do you not have her leather jacket? That's the hook. What they don't understand is that these characters have visual hooks. Right?
Yeah.
And it's like, I had a friend of mine who worked at Disney, and they would always say, don't lose the magic. Don't lose the magic. And it's the same thing. There's a magic to these designs. And you can change them, but you got to keep that magic, right? You can't have Superman without the S on his chest. They've tried.
Yeah. I want to get to some of the comments, but I will say this. I just want to say this while we're on the topic. I've taught all ages. I've worked with pre-K to college. I spent most of my time with college students, but when I work with the younger kids, and I've seen it in college, and I think it's because we're in a technological age. Everyone grew up on cell phones now, and all this. There's no suspension of disbelief anymore.
Yeah.
And I think that is the major problem.
Yes.
Because even the people who are in charge now don't have it.
Yep.
And
it makes no sense to them. They can't understand it.
Yeah. That Superman tagline, you'll believe a man could fly. You don't have and how many times did you see somebody fly before that? I mean, outside of the George Reeve or whatever, you didn't, the Rocket, what was it? Rocket Man, I think was the serial or something. You didn't see a lot of people flying on screen, and the way they did that with Superman, it was just wow, and it really changed the way we saw stuff. There was an innocence back then that is lost, and whether it and listen, you could go and look at psychological things that I've read that go back to 9/11, that Superman wasn't like our innocence was gone at that moment. Or you can go to, hey, listen, everyone's in this technological age. They can get the facts so quick that they don't believe in this stuff anymore.
Right.
They don't. So, because every time I work with a kid or something, they're going to be like, well, no, that doesn't happen. You can't have a character in space without, without a helmet or something. And oxygen. And I'm like, Superman can hold his breath for 20 minutes and or whatever version, it's good. It's good. Let me get to some comments here, and then we're going to start showing your work because we haven't even gotten to that, and we're almost an hour in.
I told you I could talk.
Yeah, no, I'm totally cool with it. So I think this was Andrew. He said, in regards to American comics, I got into Cosmic Ghost Rider, and I will say the story may be chaotic, but told in a way that fits the character and is still filled with a good blend of drama and action. I never read that, so I can't comment. Who's this? Brand Flakes goes, I think comics are an extension of storyboards, also to be as to novels being fancier than scripts and screenplays. The only thing I'm going to say on that is I don't know. Well, I don't remember when the storyboard process entered officially, and because comics have been around since the late 1800s, technically in newspapers. So I don't know if they're an extension of storyboards or if they're,
I think storyboards are an extension of comics. Sequential story. It's all sequential storytelling. That's what we're talking about. It's a good documentary on Netflix about the early ages of animation. I think it's called Before Steamboat Willie, and it shows you some of the earliest iterations of the work and some of the earliest pioneers. Back when it was just like using the oil lamps on on oiled paper and stuff. So check that out.
What was it called again?
I think it's called Before Steamboat Willie, but it's on Netflix. If you look up animation, it'll come right up. And it's restored like 120-year-old, footage.
Oh, that's awesome. Because on weekends, I tend to look for other stuff. During the week, I just put background noise on while I work. Whether I'm drawing or whatever. But on weekends, that's my time to catch up on stuff. Okay. So I'll make a note of that. So. Andrew says, I love it all. So that was when we were talking about stuff. Yeah. He says, Giant Robo. The Outlaw stuff. Been a few, it's been a few shown. I don't know. And then he says,
is that one of my students there?
I don't know.
Sounds like it.
Well, he's saying Andrew. I know a couple of Andrews, and I've had Andrew as students. But if you know who it is,
what's up, guys?
Totally go for it. What says and gotcha. Wow, definitely got to check that out. I think he's talking about his the Before Steamboat Willie, and he's saying yes.
Nicholas, I remember you. What's up, Nicholas?
Yeah. So, Roberson. Okay, so we're caught up on the comment. Let's show your work, dude. We haven't scratched the surface, I think, on what we could be talking about here.
All right.
But we're gonna start with let me just look up right here. You have a comic going on right now.
Oh yeah.
And I want to hear all about it.
Okay.
So first of all, I don't know if you remember, but I used to draw a comic called Plunger Pup. It was my own creation.
No,
I don't know if this book goes back to like 97 or 98. I don't have many copies left, but
okay,
this right here.
Oh wow! Oh, I have seen that. Yes.
So the tagline was "A dog of magic, plunger in a universe of evil." I am working on bringing him back for the 2024, possibly 2025 year. Because right now I am focused on my whiz that I showed in the beginning. I'm focused on a few other things, and I announced it last night. In the if everything, all the logistics can be worked out at the end of March, I will be announcing a anthology project I am putting together.
Okay.
All right. So just got to get some logistics worked out there. But we're looking at Utterly Ridiculous Productions, which, number one, love the name.
Thanks.
Okay. I love animal characters. Love the name. Is this your own company or is this
okay? So no, I got involved with guy Legend of the Street, Paris Cullins, and another writer, Gary Cohn. They're both the creators of Blue Devil for DC. And
yes, I know Paris.
So Paris introduced me. He got me on with Mike Dowell, and Mike Dowell and him, they were doing these comic strips about animals, right? And it was taking a while to come together. It was supposed to be like a comic strip style format, and it was going to be about this cow who's in love with her farmer, and let all that whatever happen, right? And so when Mike, found out I worked in Japan and I did all this Japanese stuff, he had an idea for a samurai pig, and so I do the character, and he said, "Oh, I love that. Can you do me a nice big like 1970s style samurai movie poster?" And I did it, and that's the cover you see there. And he loved it so much, and literally everyone we showed it to, they're like, "Oh my God, what is this? I'll buy it." Right? And so I said, "Okay, it looks like we gotta make a comic about this." And so we sat down and came up with a bit of the lore and stuff like that. And that's how it just came together. I did that image, And I just thought, what would be cool to have all these things there. And then we worked backwards and made a comic book out of it. And I don't want to give it away. You got to buy it if you want to read it about. But I mean, it's about a samurai who finds himself with a pig as a pig, in another world. They call it isekai stories in Japan, but
Okay.
Isekai is, Dungeons and Dragons, a cartoon from the 80s, is an isekai story basically, right?
Okay.
Any story
Which is my all-time favorite cartoon, by the way.
There you
guys.
go. So it's just a genre, right? And yeah, all you kids out there, the genre's been around for a long time. I mean, John Carter of Mars is an isekai story,
Yeah.
So and that's how that happened there. And it was a blast to draw and work on. It's my first full-length book that I drew it, penciled it, inked it, and colored it.
Wow,
and,
you do a lot.
Yeah, and then we got great Catherine Renta. She's the letterer because she's a way better than I am. So the title is because for years I thought Eno meant pig, because I was when I was like 19 or 20, I saw Yojimbo for the first time. There was a Critteron collection subtitle version of it, and there's a character called Eno, and it said, yeah, he's like a wild pig. And so I was like, okay, so I thought Eno meant pig. And so originally the concept for the character was he was supposed to drink alcohol and get stronger. And I said, that's nice, but if you ever want to see this character on TV, it can be any alcohol.
Yeah.
But we put the sake in there, and I said, okay, so he's a samurai pig, so I called him Inosake, right? And his full name was supposed to be Sapporo Inosake, two different words for alcohol, Sapporo beer. And Sapporo is also a region in Japan and stuff. And then we decided to the alcohol out, but we kept the name because it worked. Then I found out there's a character in Demon Slayer called Inosuke, and I said, I don't care, because we'd already gotten the copyrights and everything. Thanks.
Let me ask you a question. So, what does Eno actually mean?
Oh, it's boar.
Boar. Okay,
Wild pig is a boar. Get it?
Exactly.
So they were a little too literal, and so I tried to work that in. So when I made the book, I did not want to try to be a Japanese book, right? And I said, look, I don't want because there's no kanji in the book, because if you don't have a native Japanese speaker to do the kanji for you, don't do it, right? And don't use terms you don't fully understand. And I said, well, this isn't Japan, it's a fantasy world, so I can kind of do what I want. And I try to work the mistranslations into the story a lot. It's like there's a lot of things. There's a character who mispronounces things a lot. And so yeah, I just go with it from there. But yeah, that's how we came up with all that. All those characters will eventually, make their way into the book. But yeah, I'm pretty proud of the work. The digital version is available now. The print version will be premiered at GalaxyCon, and that's March 23rd. It has
March 24th and 26th.
Oh yes,
sorry,
that was 2 days. Oh, anyway, yeah.
That's where's that? Richmond, Virginia.
Richmond, Virginia, and it has a brand new cover. So the digital version has one cover. That has two. If you're a collector, get both.
How much for the digital copy, if you don't mind me asking?
$5.
What?
Oh, the digital copy is $4.99, and I think the print copies or digital copy is $3.99, and the physical copy would be like $4.99. We're keeping the cost low to put it out there. Oh yeah.
Okay, cool. That's your About Us. I meant to hit the comic strips.
Oh yeah. So those strips there are drawn by Paris Cullens, and I colored them. So okay. You first get in the industry, everybody wants you to color, and I'm like, yeah, I don't want to just be a colorist though. So.
No, I know. I don't do well with color. If you saw the comic that I did, I have a form of color blindness. It's referred to as shade blindness.
Okay.
But people, it just goes under the umbrella of color blindness. Right. Basically, what it is I see all colors, but when they start blending, I have trouble telling them apart.
Okay.
So like if you look at the Wiz that you saw earlier, which I do color, a lot of the times it is asking my wife, hey, is this a good brown? Is this a good whatever? It's really all my colors are usually bright because I see bright colors well.
I guess I can see that works, but hey, you compensate for it.
Yeah. So, but dude, and by the way, I love Paris's work.
Paris is cool. Yeah. So this strip here, I colored it also, is drawn by Louis Small Jr. He was the first modern Vampirella artist.
Yes, I met Louis back in the 90s. He won't remember me. This Lewis, I won't say anything about him. I mean, listen, he used to make me laugh.
Yeah, he's funny dude. Oh yeah.
But that's all I want to say without because there are other things, and if I say it could come out wrong, and I don't mean it in a negative way.
That's fine.
I really don't. But I used to laugh a lot when I was around him. We used to do what was that show? The Big Apple Con.
Big Apple Con?
But when it was in the church basement.
I remember I went there when I was 19. I met Walter Simpson for the first time. Yeah. And I showed him my superhero comic I drew on like 8.5 by 11 paper. He was like, "It's cool, but it's too small." I was like,
"Yeah, that's if you I know some people who actually draw. They take their 8.5 by 11, measure it out to 7 by 10, and they draw their actual comic. Somebody asked,
you have to be able to do this thing called math. And I don't do so well with the math.
Hold on. I don't know if Dylan's asking me or you, but it says, "Is that Top Cat?"
Okay, yes. So I actually that came up from Lewis because he drew all those characters there. Yeah, it's kind of no, it's not for legal reasons.
Oh, right there. Yeah, I totally missed.
But you are allowed to use them once as a parody, and it is a parody. So yes, it is Top Cat.
Because I do have some Top Cat stuff in this room. I just didn't think it was on camera. That's I am. For those who don't know, I'm one of the biggest Hanna-Barbera fans out there.
You definitely like this stuff,
yeah. So,
and these guys will all be in their own book. It's called The Barnyard of Horror. That's the next book we're working on.
Oh, that sounds awesome.
We'll be drawing that and primarily, and I'll be doing a 6-page story in it.
That is great. I mean, this work is beautiful. I love all this stuff.
Yeah, those guys are good. It's good. It was really good it was easy to work on because the base material was so strong. So, and it was working on this, and I worked on Black and the sequel White and Black AF, and I was working on the Jamal Eigels pencils, and that's when I started seeing that my work was stronger if I used a solid black. So I started incorporating more solid black. That's why you see the newest pieces I have a lot more solid blacks instead of just the gray tones in them.
Okay. Yeah, well, that's cool. Is there? I thought when I was on this website before, there was all you guys had a bio page or something.
Yeah, there is a bio page there. It should be up there. If it's not working, I will let Mike know.
Character bios? No.
Yeah. So I colored all those. Paris through those. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
Not a problem.
I'm just looking specifically for some. I mean, listen, this artwork is.
Yeah, it's all Lewis. He draws those. He draws women. He can draw.
Yes, he does.
Oh yeah.
Let's see the other. Oh, nothing on there. I thought there was. And then we can go to shop.
Yeah, that's where you just go and buy the stuff there.
How many pages? I forgot to ask you for your book.
Oh, it is 36 pages, I do believe.
Okay.
36. So you're getting a good value. You're getting a good value of money. Yeah, it's 28 pages of story. So, I'm sorry. Yeah, that book is 28. The digital version is 28. The print version will be 36. So I always got to remember that because you got to put the ads and then the cover and all that stuff.
Yeah. Dylan, I was about to ask that question. Well, you already answered about your. Well, you answered it all about everyone's. Well, he was asking what's the comic about.
Samurai, as a samurai who goes into the world.
Yeah. Now he's human in the other world, or
no? So I don't want to give away too much, but basically, he winds up in a world where everyone's an anthropomorphic animal, and so he's kind of got to navigate that. And then you find out, well, how did he get here? Why? You're like, if people say it's like Drifters, but Drifters also copied off of a science fiction story. I always forget the name of it, but it was like the story of this astronaut who dies and wakes up in a world where every single person who ever died was alive. And so he goes down a steamboat with Mark Twain and, he's fighting battles with Julius Caesar and the rest of these guys. And I thought it was such a great concept. And so when I read Drift, I was like, oh, that's where they got that from. And I said, well, I could do that, for this. It just seemed to work.
That sounds so familiar to me.
I know. And I can never remember the name of the story.
Wow. Dude, that sounds so familiar.
Yeah, I remember it was an astronaut. He was going down the river with Mark Twain on a steamboat with all these other famous people from history, and they, you know, it was like you had the good guys and the bad guys, and they, you know, they fought against, they had, you know, fought a war and stuff.
Yeah. Wow. Let me see if I can just switch over real quick.
Sure.
Oh, nope. I got to stop the share and redo it. I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to share your Instagram because, dude, that is one of my favorite things. Talking about all the stuff we're looking at here.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I mean, you're doing the colors. I mean,
yeah.
You know, and this is one of the things about anime and manga that doesn't happen in American comics with the energy, with the pose. I mean, with the fusion era that came in the late 90s, you would see it.
Madarera,
but,
I know what about. Yeah.
But this is what I love about, like, my influences when I talk about my art influences. You know, I just mentioned Hanna-Barbera. I'm a big Hanna-Barbera fan, but also, like, superheroes, I'll look at Alex Toth, who designed a lot.
Oh, geez, yes.
I'm old school Jack Kirby, Will Eisner. You know, I can name like all those artists. Gil Kane, his work on Green Lantern. Holy crap! You know, you look at all these old guys, but I go back into the strips, and you know, you look at Hal Foster, or you look at Alex Raymond and stuff. I mean, I, honestly, Hal Foster and Alex Raymond might be the two greatest artists who's ever lived in the comic world, as well as
Frazetta's comic work is amazing.
Oh,
too.
Frazetta! Holy! I got a chance to go to the Frazetta Museum one.
Oh
my
you're
God!
Lucky.
Listen, I'm going to tell you this story real quick.
On
a family vacation with my wife's family.
Yeah.
And we're staying at this hotel, and it was like my wife's, you know, and it was in the East Stroudsburg area where it is, and my wife and her mother wanted to go shopping at this outlet center. And they were like, we're going shopping at this outlet center. Michael, can you take us? I said, sure. They're like, what are you going to do while we're in there? I'm going to drive 20 minutes away from you. And I'm going to this museum.
Yeah.
And I got to meet his daughter-in-law and his grandson. They were two of the nicest people. Actually, the Frazetta that hangs up above me there is I got from there. But holy crap. There are just images you would never think you saw, little sketches of like his interpretation of Superman. And I mean, it's just, it's a quick walk. If you just walk it, like it's literally
open now. Because I know they closed it after he died, and that's when the fighting began.
I went after he passed away. I know that. But you could check to see if it's still.
Yeah, I definitely want to go. If it's open back, because I know that was, you know, it's like the Jackson family. The knives are gonna come out now. You know.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah. That got me my job on Black. So
you know, I wish I thought I should have recommended you to a friend of mine. Right now going on in Poe Park in the Bronx is an art show called Black. It's called Black, and then it's Panther Lightning Power, and it's about celebrating Black superheroes. I got a Black Panther piece in there. I did. It was a little bit more of. I didn't think I was going to be in the show. My friend Ray Felix, who put on the show.
I know Ray.
You know, right? So Ray and I were sitting together at a show, and I had this little Black Panther card I did, like a 4.5 by 4.5, and I just kind of like at the end of the show, it didn't sell. I'm like, here you go, put it in your show. And he's like, like a couple of days before the show is supposed to be hung, he's like, I can't get a frame for your picture. Can you do it a little bigger? And I'm like, can you do another one? I'm like, I'm really going to be in it? Okay. So I put it in. I put it in there. But this Saturday, I believe it's at noon. I got to check. I got to get all the information right. Arlen Schumer is going to be there talking about Black Panther, I believe, or Black Light, one of the two. But a piece like this would have been gorgeous in there, you know? Oh, definitely. And there's the
ad.
There's the ad. But I got to say, this is one of my favorite pieces of yours.
It is one of my best-selling pieces.
Yeah. I mean, the movement that she got in there and everything, like I can draw in an anime style, right?
Sure.
And I tend to do it quite often,
Yeah.
but it looks nothing like this. It looks like I look at yours and I will
Yeah.
say, you know what, this could have this really could have been done in Japan.
All right.
I
Thank
look
you.
at mine and it's like,
Thank you.
I mean, also my style's a little more animated, so like,
Yeah.
I have this character that I drew years ago. His name's Cosmic Kid, and
Okay.
I wanted to do something with him, so I decided to make him
Hmm.
animated. It's kind of like in an Astro Boy style now, so
Yeah.
it's a little 8-page story I've developed
Uh-huh.
for him that I want to put out. But yeah, no, I mean, like, it's completely different. Wow, and not that it's bad or good in any other way. I'm just saying.
Hmm.
I love how you get the muscles. I mean, I'm sitting here looking at Wolverine's back muscles and how it like indents over
Thank you.
here, and like right in that spot. Gorgeous.
You thank Bart Sears for that.
There it was again. Yeah, unfortunately, I had to cancel due to my last week due to some.
That's fine, man. And yeah, this is a panel from the comic. That's why I don't want to give away too much.
Yeah, no, I love it.
Yeah,
I love your colors.
Thank you. I try to get the expression. He's an angry pig. It's basically all samurai that we know here in the West are also Shinomifune. So
yeah. Oh, so do I still have It's Top Cat still on? Wow. Okay, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry.
No problem.
Was it Not surprised? It's a top seller. We have it as well.
Oh, I thank you.
Where is the next button? We won't go through everything on here, but
so
I'll
that
see
one
it.
I've got to color it. I have the base colors done.
Whoops,
have to do the lighting effects on it. And so it was just taking so long that I said, I just put it up for Black History Month. And it also shows a bit of what I'm talking about, a new style. I use a lot more rendering now. I use the blacks and stuff. So, yeah, because again, it saves time in the coloring phase, and I think it makes it pop and look stronger. And because I'd gotten requests to draw Static Shock, I said, sure, I'll do Static Shock. That's no problem.
Yeah,
thank you.
This is a great interpretation of them.
Thank you. And the Flash one, I'm really proud of that came out. My sister actually asked me to do a Flash because it's her favorite character too. Mm-hmm. And the sibling rivalry kicks in. It's like my favorite character. No, it's my favorite character. I'm like, fine. So I had actually done like 2 different compositions for it, because I told my students this. I said, you don't understand, the hardest part, all the work is in the composition. Yeah. If you got a strong composition, the rest is just adding details. And so I spend the most time on that. And I had 2 different compositions, and I went to a couple of the people in the industry, and I was like, well, which one you like better? They were like, oh, we like, they said they're both equally good. But I chose this one because you can see his emblem. The other one, his hand is like covering up the emblem. The other one is like a bit more breaking. It's more breaking the plane. It's coming towards the camera. But I went with this one. It gives a lot of energy there, and it's I wanted to do Wally's costume.
Well, I was going to say this is definitely Wally.
Yeah, and so I went in there. And again, it was just the solid blacks is literally because bit of a confession here. I got into Photoshop because I learned to draw by watching animation and the cartoons and Street Fighter stuff. So I wasn't comfortable with solid blacks, and I hate inking. I hated it, right? And so I used to do it in a light box, and I thought, well, if I use Photoshop, I won't have to ink. I was wrong. You still have to ink, and so it literally comes down to just rendering with solid blacks is confidence. Just go in, and I like it because it's more artistic. Right? If you don't use the solid blacks with the rendering or cross hatching, then it's like a technical drawing. But when you do use solid blacks, then it's more artistic interpretation. You're giving the indication of shapes and form and stuff like that. And it's a lot of fun. And I'll just sit in there and I'm just going in with more and more and more and more and more black. And you don't want to over ink it.
Yeah.
You can over ink, but I try to find a good medium there.
Well, I just want to say this because it's funny. Because it seems you and I really grew up the same way, like art mentality and learning, that I hate inking.
Yeah.
And solid blacks are not my favorite thing, but I went digital more towards medical issues. Like, I don't know if you can tell my hand shakes a bit.
Oh, okay.
So I went digital because of the undo button. And I'm in Procreate a lot now, or Clip Studio on my iPad, because I do need to get out of the studio some days.
Yeah.
I literally spend Monday through Friday in here at my day job,
Mhm.
and then there's the morning and sometimes at night in here doing whether it's the show or just working. So I tend to take my iPad out to the living room or wherever. But I'm not a big solid black person, but I'm more confident with my solid blacks than I am with my hatching, actually.
Okay. It's really just like the whole thing is, again, it's you don't want to make it repetitive. Here's a good example, right? If you look at cross hatching done by like Tim Sale, and his cross hatching is like perfectly parallel, right?
Yeah.
And then you look at Kentaro Miura, it's not parallel at all.
Yeah.
And the trick is they both look good, but as long as you're getting the point across is the most important thing.
Yeah.
And you get to that point where it's literally like I guess it's confidence. It's really just like, look, I know what I'm doing. And does it look good? Does it not look good? And you just go in. And I did like 2 different like versions of his head, and I just you just go in if it looks good, looks good.
Yeah.
And you just have to trust yourself. It's really just confidence.
No,
but
no,
you gotta get to that point.
But also that helps with digital because I can create everything on separate layers and go.
Yes, I did this. That's Photoshop. I drew the thumbnail in with a ballpoint pen, and then the rest is Photoshop.
I used to, because I always had issues with lighting, and in high school I had a teacher say, "I'm going to teach you lighting," and what she did, and I don't know if you've ever done this type of project, it's what they refer to as subtractive charcoal. And basically, you sit in a dark room with a light on an object, you color in an entire piece of paper black with charcoal, and then you just take your eraser and erase where the light is. And it taught me lighting so well.
Negative space. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So that what I ended up doing was I tend to overfill my blacks and then go in and erase digitally now because of how I was taught in high school.
Yeah, that's literally Tim Sale when he worked on Death Blow for Image, and Scott McDaniel, we did Daredevil in the 90s, and he did the same thing. It was like this, they would just go in, and it's all niggas. Like I said, that's exactly why I like it now, because it is interpretation.
Yeah.
It's just, what do you think? How is something? And then everybody looks at it. Because we humans, even non-artists, they don't know anatomy, but they know it looks correct. Subconscious,
exactly.
Right? And that's the main thing. As long as you can get there. Is that 100% correct? Nope. That's supposed to be though. It's art.
Totally, man. That's your banner.
That's the banner for the shows and stuff like that. Again, it was requested. It just grew from that poster, and again, like I said, making a comic around that character, and maybe it will be in an animation one day, stuff like that. The only bad things about it is I can never read Usagi Yojimbo again, because I don't want to copy anything from that. Right? I mean, he's literally why he has a red what's it called, Hakama top on, because Usagi Yojimbo's blue. He had to be different, right?
Yeah,
so
I know.
I had to go. Yeah,
I like Usagi is one of my favorite. I have the what is it, the 2 volumes in the.
But I can never read it again now. I can't read Demon Slayer either because I don't want to unconsciously copy it.
I have that issue with some Magic stories because I have a Magic character there. Nice.
That was for a promotional piece for this fighting game team called Dynamic Focus. So they just want me to do that, and I did that. And I was working on a really crappy, slow computer, and it wasn't the best situation.
But it's a very nice piece. And here's your Miles.
Yes, because I got requests. I'd done a Spider-Man picture, and somebody wanted the Miles, so I just said I'll use the same pose, and I cheat.
Yeah. You have to. You swipe your own work, man. Swipe your own
straight.
Work. But I mean, listen, the major studios have done it for years.
Oh yeah.
I was just watching, I think it was a TikTok or an Instagram reel today on my lunch hour, and it was showing what was that X-Men cartoon when they were like younger?
X-Men, not Academy, X-Men Forever. I know what you're talking about.
But they showed like Rogue dancing and stuff, and they were taking it from like Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Yeah.
And I was like, I never put 2 and 2 together. X-Men Evolution. That was the name.
That's right. Interestingly enough, so there was a controversy when Street Fighter 4 came out, or Street Fighter 5 came out, right? Marvel released a mobile game that had all the characters in it, and they literally copied Chun-Li's super move and put Miles Morales on top of it. So he did the exact same animation and everything. And people are like, really?
I have to say, I love how you have your webbing coming out right here. I think
Thank
that's great. I've just being the classic Spider-Man fan I am, I've never been really into the knots that McFarlane brought into it.
He had to do his own thing. I know. I like it.
But if done correctly, it works great.
It works.
Which I like how you have it, because you don't have all that detail in your webs.
Right.
It's a little more stylized. So I like this a lot there.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. That's the cover again.
Yeah, that's when it was a poster. So that's why you see the title was down lower. The title I came up with myself. I just fucked them. I futzed around with it, and just came up with the sunlight, the sunset on it, and the cut through it.
I love the dog here.
He's an issue too.
He really reminds me of like an old like ninja like TV character, something like you would see out of like one of those old like cheesy cartoons, like Chuck Norris and his Karate Commando. Like I look at that and I'm like, I don't know, I get the feeling like he should be like fighting Rambo or something,
He's actually so my sister adopted a because she's a retired soldier, and so she adopted a retired service dog, and
awesome.
His dog, his name was Vando, and he had 2 purple hearts,
That's great.
And he passed away, and so as a tribute to her, I made him a character. So that's Bando, because V and B are the same in Japanese. So again, the whole I'm screwing around with the translation, lost in translation stuff. So he'll be an issue too.
Dude, that's fantastic. I'm so happy you did that, man. I just love hearing stories like that. Wow. Nice.
So, thank you. I finished that one just before the pandemic. And that was one of the last posters I did. That's why I started drawing new works. I had realized I hadn't done anything in 3 years. I've been so busy with comics work. I hadn't done any conventions, and now the convention's starting up. So I said, all right, I gotta, get some new stuff. I have to retire. Some of these old prints I've had for like 10 years. And it's time to, move on. They don't reflect my style anymore. So thank you. That was fun to draw.
I gotta say, like, back when Marvel did their Marvel manga stuff, man, that should have been the Marvel manga verse. That should have been you. Oh, dude, you know Francis?
Yeah, I know
this Francis's strip right there, Suburban Fairy Tales, might be my favorite comic strip at the moment. It is so damn funny.
Yeah, back when I used to do MCon, but now I relocated out of New York, so I can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
And that's another one of my best-selling pieces, and that's caused. I used to agonize when I drew female characters because I didn't want to offend anyone. Now I don't care. I just make myself happy. And I've gotten everyone who said that, oh my God, that's so sexist. To I've had women run up, literally just grab it off the table and run away with it. And because what I did that picture because before the Suicide Squad movie came out, I lost count. I was at Eternal Con, and I lost count how many women were dressed up like that.
I have a very big issue with Harley Quinn. Okay. I'm not going to go into my soapbox speech, but here's all I'm going to say.
Mm-hmm.
Number one, I don't like when they make characters like Harley Quinn who are literally, a murderer and try to bring them into becoming heroes, specifically aiming them at kids. I don't like that at all. But the Harley Quinn I like was the Harley Quinn created for Batman the Animated Series.
Yeah.
I don't like what she has transferred into, and I don't think it's great seeing her in cosplay as much as I do, especially with little girls dressed up as her.
A woman brought her 8-year-old daughter dressed like that, and I just said, okay. And I said, you know what? I need to eat, and I'm going to draw it.
Yeah. No, I mean, listen, I get it. And if you could, if you need to, you want to make money off of it, go for it. I would never stop anyone or say, oh my God, why the hell would you draw that? This is terrible. But that's my little issue with her. There's a lot of characters out there.
Yeah, but for some reason, she is she has the Wolverine effect, where Wolverine was so popular, you just put him on the cover of the book. There's literally books that they have a Wolverine's on the cover, and he's not in the book. They just put him on the cover to sell extra copies. They put a disclaimer: Wolverine is not appearing in this issue. She is the same. You put her on the cover of a book, it's gonna sell like 5 times more. So is the Flash, by the way. They call them sales boosters. The Flash, Superman, Batman, Harley Quinn, Wolverine, and certain other characters. They're all, you put them on the cover, sales are going to go up. Spider-Man. That's why every new Marvel comic, the 3rd issue, mandatory Spider-Man guest appearance back in the 80s and 90s.
Wow. Yeah. No,
And so my students will know some of those pictures there, because I drew those because they all love Smash Brothers so much. So
yeah. Well, this one I have to look at, and by the way, I haven't looked at that, but there you go, man. Hold on. I don't have my I don't know. I guess what I had for dinner is not ring. I grab something. I am a huge Mario fan.
Okay.
I had him on my back wall. I'm just doing a little redecorating right now, so it's on the floor. But I'm a huge Mario fan. I also love Sonic. So to see this picture, it just brings me so much joy.
Thank you. It's I learned to draw Mario because there's a defunct YouTube channel called PBS Game/Show. And they were doing a video about how Mario makes you a better player. And they contacted me, said, can you draw like a bunch of images for the video? And they sent me screenshots, and they said, well, can you, just make screenshots? I said, no, I work in comics. So I made it very dramatic stuff with that, and they loved it. And you can go find it. The channel should still be up, even though they haven't done anything in years on it. But I did all that. And so I got really good at drawing Mario. And I wanted to draw Sonic. And everyone else always drew them standing. And I said, no. Come on, guys.
No, you got to put the action in.
Yeah, exactly. And again, that's my advantage is there's a lot of people who will do Japanese style work, but they really don't do action, and I said, I can't, because this goes into, like you see now, so many people don't learn the fundamentals.
Yeah.
And if you don't have fundamentals, you can't draw your characters moving. You can't draw them talk. You can't draw them anything.
Exactly. I forgot what year it was. Maybe 2000. I worked for Archie Comics for a little bit. Not long, like 3 months. I was a production artist. I didn't stay long. And I shared my cubicle with the guy who was doing the Sonic book at the time. But the thing was, I learned how to draw Sonic actually from an Archie book, but not the one. It was the guy who, his name was Spaz at the time. I'm sure it still is. That's what he goes by. But he would spend more time in the computer room than the cubicle, but because he did a lot of that stuff digital. But the one that Scott Shaw did that was based on the original video game, is the book that I had when I was younger.
Okay.
That I learned. So like when I draw Sonic, I don't draw him like that. It's almost like drawing Mickey Mouse, because he's basically based off Mickey Mouse, the original version. So I'm always drawing that. I want to get that style down though, that version of him, because
Teenage Sonic. Oh
yeah, because I like the design so much.
Yeah, again, that's why the character resonates, because it's a very strong design. People like that.
Yeah. Yeah,
and so I will finish that. I've been again, that started before the pandemic, and I wanted to have a poster of Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles, and I can't get a Knuckles pose that has the same level of energy as Sonic. So I keep redrawing it and trying to come up with something, but eventually it'll get done.
Yeah, there you are.
And yeah, that's me. That's the Red Ranger.
Okay, yeah, I was just reading who it was.
Oh yeah,
not the original Red Ranger.
No. He was like one of the last ones. He's a really great guy. A lot of people don't know he was. He did the motion capture for Leon Kennedy for the Resident Evil 6 and the CGI movies.
When we get off the air, because I can't tell the story on the air. I'll share a story with you that happened at the at a Comic-Con to me. Yeah. But it all started with me walking into the bathroom and bumping into the original Red Ranger as he was walking out.
Oh, nice.
So that was the start of the story, but I can't tell it because number one, I don't curse on air, and there's a lot of cursing. Not from him. He was away from the whole thing. But there's a story you're gonna love.
Okay.
But
My
yeah,
interest has been piqued.
we will look at a few other. That's your
Yeah,
table there.
yeah.
That's the
And see,
pencil.
that's my pencil. So people don't believe I can draw without a computer, and I'm like, okay, let me show you.
Yeah. Listen, I do the majority of my work on pencil on 8.5 by 11 scrap paper. Just regular copy paper, and I'll do like one image, and then I usually bring it into something like Photoshop or Procreate, and I adjust everything, scale it down, do whatever, and then there I flatten it, and there's my drawing, and
there you go.
That's how I do a lot of my
That's
stuff.
all it takes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Okay.
the rest is you guys can you can see that.
Let's just you don't. There's that other Spider-Man piece you were talking about.
So it's the same pose. I will do another Miles Morales now that I think about it, because he deserves to be a bit better. I might do him and Miguel O'Hara.
Okay.
Funny, I found out that Spider-Man 2099 is actually based on Miguel Ferreira from RoboCop.
Really?
The guy who played Bob Morton, right? He wrote at Marvel for 3 years. He created Comet Man.
I did not know that.
I know. And so Peter David was a good friend of his and literally based Miguel O'Hara on him.
Wow, I did not know that.
I know. This is the most random stuff.
Yeah, I gotta say, this Nightwing.
Thank you.
One of my favorite. Love it. Two of my favorite characters here. And God, I'm just looking at this stuff. You got to have that original Flash piece that I love up on here.
Oh yeah, I'll put it up there. I'll put it.
Give
The
it
face
nice.
As strong as I'll put it up there.
Nice little throwback Thursday type of thing.
Oh yeah, it's and that does not, because of the new Star Wars stuff, does not sell anywhere near as much as it used to. So
I have so much I can complain about. Listen, there have been days like it used to be where like I'd watch a commercial for Star Wars and you hear the theme music. I wouldn't even be looking at the TV, but my head would snap so fast you thought I broke my neck. That's how it was. Now when I hear the theme music, I'm just like,
oh god, what are they gonna do now?
It doesn't like you hear the voice, like Obi. Like, there was one commercial, I forget what it was for. It might have been for like when it was Revenge of the Sith. And like Obi-Wan is talking and you hear his voice and you just kind of like, you just stop what you're doing. I mean, first of all, Obi-Wan was always one of my favorite characters.
Oh, he is one of those popular characters in the series.
But that's the thing. Like they did, I can't do it. I can't even talk about his show.
That's a whole other conversation.
Yeah.
And that goes into the whole, how the guys in suits can mess stuff up.
I am so upset. So upset. This is gorgeous too.
Thank you, Captain Falcon.
Right there. Yeah, one of my favorites.
Yeah, he's cool.
Man, this is good. Dude, your work is so fantastic, so full of energy. The poses.
Thank you. I try.
Do you use reference on anything, or
sometimes for the anatomy and stuff like that? Very rarely will I look up, like, if something's very specific, a character sitting or something like that. But what I try to do is so the two books I use the most are How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way and the Animator Survival Kit, right? And,
the Animator Survival Kit is one of the best books out there.
And it's all about I try to be as dramatic as possible. It's literally like I'll do a pose. I'm like, can I get more energy out of it? And then I'll do it again and I'll do it again. Again, that's why I said the composition is where I do the majority of the creative work. Right, and then the rest is just filling in details. I really need to put more sequentials up there. Yeah, Paris drew that. I colored it. That's when I first started working with him, and I really want to start, because that's how you get work. Is the pinups are okay, but people want to see the sequentials. So.
Yeah, that's it. I'm working on a few sequential stuff right now. I've been in and out of the industry for years. Okay. I don't know how much we've chatted outside of this to tell you about my background, but I started in '97 doing comics, and then I got by '98 I was doing a lot of small press stuff. I got into indie books, and I was doing a lot of pinups, a lot of Then I started getting some sequentials and things, and then due to more than likely health issues, I've had a lot of health issues on and off throughout my life. It was like by maybe 2005 things slowed down, and then I would go back in 2008, and then I'd go back in 2011. It was things like that. Like I'd be gone for multiple years, and then I'd come back in and do stuff. Anyway, I am at the point now where if I work for someone, I work for someone. I'm just creating all my own stuff, and I'm having so much fun.
Yeah.
And if I do some sequentials, and I'm doing some work for people I know, that I've done work with either before or people I've wanted to work with. Yeah. So I'm doing those kind of like as, hey, I love this type of stuff, I want to do it. But yeah, if those lead to other things, I will happily take other work. But right now, it's all focused on building my story properties and things right now. And
which you should. I mean, there's lots of avenues for that too, because I mean, comics are comics. Comics are never, it's never going to be a point where people don't make comics because they're a great form of self-expression, right? And the certain companies have had a lock on the industry for a long time, and they're kind of letting it slip now, right? Because they're not interested. They've gone on to other things, right? Movies, right? Let's be honest. And so it's opened up the field. Like for Spectacular Inc., I'm going to be doing a superhero comic, and I never would have done this. Like 5 years ago, 6 years. There's no way you don't do a superhero comic. You can be with Marvel DC now. Yeah, they don't really make the comics that superhero fans want to read anymore, right? And so there's a market that's open for that. So now I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do my own version of it. So I'm in the pre-production, that lining up my writer, and then I'm gonna do like a 5-page sample. We're gonna put it in another book because I'm also working. I did there's a book called Corrupt. It's coming out based on the fighting game. I'm working on that for the last 3 years. Wayne J. Roberson, he's the character designer and he drew it. I did the character coloring. He did all the backgrounds. It's all CGI backgrounds and stuff. And so it looks pretty good. It looks really good. And so, but under that label, I'll be doing this. It's going to be called, the tentative title is the Centurions, right? Because Sentinels has been used way too much. And so we're going to see there. But again, like I said, I would never have done this.
Well, just remember, there was a cartoon called Centurions.
I know, Power Extreme.
Yep, dude, I bought a DVD copy of that. I forgot how bad the show was.
I know that theme song and that intro.
Yeah, well, come on, that was a really good idea, but it wasn't. Yes. A lot of those cartoons in the 80s, they were good ideas. I mean, obviously they were there to sell toys. Yeah. Like I was a big Mask fan. That was my thing.
It could have been great.
G.I. Joe and Mask were like my two my shows and toys. But yeah, man, Mask I would love to see come back. I actually some people call it fan fiction. I never call it fan fiction because I've been involved in pitches and stuff. So what I like to do sometimes is take properties from my childhood that aren't being done anything with, and how would I revamp it? How would I take it? And then this way, if I can bring it to pitch somewhere, I will. So it's almost like it's more exercises for me than actually writing fanfic. But I'll be like. As an example, when I was a kid, I loved Black Star. I don't know if you remember that.
I remember Black Star.
All right. I have an entire update and how this guy would. I really think it would work well. It's not just me saying, "Hey, listen, I'm good. I'm what I'm doing." But DreamWorks owns the rights, and I hear.
Oh, never mind. I was about to say you should find out who owns the rights.
Yeah,
so
it's a little
sitting on it.
It's a little difficult, right? And what's funny is a friend of mine's father was a lawyer for Viacom, for the Hallmark Channel. He was an entertainment lawyer. And at the time, Viacom owned it. And I remember talking to him, and they're like, they are not letting any Filmation rights go. And this is, we're going back 20 plus years now.
Jeez,
but this is how long I've been sitting on, and I've redeveloped it since then. But I'm like, oh my God. And I have one for He-Man. I never came up with one for Brave Star, but I used to just love that show.
30-30. I remember
30-30. God, sometimes those theme songs just pop into my head
because they were great.
Yeah, but it's like that's the thing. Like I rewrote one for Mask. I even wrote back when Smallville came out. I wrote a Shazam story that could be in the world of Smallville.
Nice.
And I was like, I wrote the pilot episode and plotted out like 4 or 5 episodes. But back then, I did not know how to break into the industry, how to get the work out to people. you know, because we're going back, what, 2000, 2001, something like that. And
Mm-hmm.
I was, you know, in my, well, I was 21 in 97. So I was like in my
Right.
early mid 20s, but I was in
Right.
New York. I didn't know who to, now I understand who I go to pitch,
Gotcha.
mostly for animation, but
Yeah.
and comics, but not for
Yeah.
film. You can't get in there without like an
Well, we need
agent.
to talk then. We definitely need to talk. I got ideas.
Yeah, we'll sit down. Yeah. But yeah, no, like all that stuff. Like there's so many great properties from the 80s that I'd
Yeah.
love to. And
Nobody's doing anything with. Oh
yeah.
yeah.
And I'm looking, by the way, when I look down, I'm
Mhm.
looking at my Cintiq. I'm
That's
using it
fine.
as another monitor. I'm not ignoring you.
Mhm.
I just keep looking at the work that you have here. I have on the screen and stuff here.
That's just the stuff I put online. I got a lot more.
I'm sure, but I'm looking at the art
Mm.
from Paris.
Yeah.
I don't know how long it's been since I saw Paris, man. He was always such a nice guy.
Hmm.
Always such a nice guy. He was a good
Mm.
guy, and wow, man, this is just
Yeah.
great.
I just
Great
talked to
stuff.
him like a year ago, I think. So yeah, it's been a
Yeah,
bit.
it's been mine was pre-pandemic. I know that. I
Mm.
think the last time I saw him it was like at a kids Comic Con or something,
Uh,
which probably means we're going back like 2015, 2016
wow,
maybe.
that is
Yeah,
wow. To
I
think that
haven't.
2015 was a long time ago.
Yeah, I
We're
know.
getting old. We're getting old.
Every day.
But yeah, like I said, yeah, you should definitely do it because I actually was speaking with a friend of mine. I call it the theft of culture.
Hmm.
And because when you look at the kids nowadays, they don't know Looney Tunes, right? And it's not that they don't like Looney Tunes, it's because where do you watch them? You
Yep.
can't find them anywhere. They've all been taken and put behind paywalls,
Yeah.
and they're robbing us of that share. Because as we were growing up, we saw reruns, and so
Yeah.
we got the same jokes our parents and our grandparents did. We all knew honeymooners. We all knew that.
Yeah.
And when you don't allow these things to at least be publicly available in some form, you take away that ability for people to develop an interest. And again, it's a you steal that
Yeah.
aspect of culture away.
It's also a
Steal
different type of comedy these days. Like a lot of that comedy is not, not a lot. Like,
it.
okay, just as an example, me
Mm.
growing up,
Yeah,
my father, he's 81 now, but
right.
he was the youngest of 5 kids,
Hmm.
and he had 2 brothers, and obviously 2 sisters too. But like when I would go visit his side of the family, and it'd be like on a Sunday, you would have WPIX showing like all the old
Hmm.
Tarzan stuff,
Oh
and on
yeah.
Saturday mornings and Sunday mornings, Bravo, before what it is now,
Uh-huh.
used to show like old movie serials like Flash Gordon. They would show
Wow.
Laurel and Hardy, Abbott and
Yeah.
Costello, things like that. So my dad introduced me to those, and to me,
Uh-huh.
I don't think there's anything funnier than Abbott and Costello
Yeah, we're
out there,
great.
and maybe the Marx Brothers too, depending which movie you look at. But
Uh-huh.
but because of that, I got to look at and explore Buster Keaton, and I
Hmm.
got to look at all these great things, and then as I got older, and the point I'm
Mm.
getting to is you're talking about Looney Tunes. They were all based off
Yes.
all that vaudevillian humor,
Hmm.
and we don't have things like that. Very rare do you look around and see Tarzan on the screen anymore.
Yep.
You don't see any of that. I mean, I was lucky enough. I got to behind me is a book
Mm.
from Bold Venture Press. I got to do some Zorro work, who's my all-time favorite fictional
Mm.
character, and that was exciting. But my father, again, he introduced me to Zorro, the Lone
Hmm.
Ranger. No one knows who any of these people are anymore.
And
And
it's the suits,
yeah,
It
but it's okay to like Batman, but without Zorro, you wouldn't have
wouldn't
Batman.
have Batman.
Yeah,
What it literally is that they grab these IPs and they sit on them because they're valuable. But by sitting on them, they prevent the next generation from learning about them, so they're going to become worthless.
yeah,
I would say that the reason comedy is the way it is with young people today is because they didn't have the things to form good comedy. I
yeah,
have a 15-year-old niece, and I tried to show her Airplane, and she literally couldn't get it because it requires you to sit down and draw conclusions, stuff like that. And the comedy they're used to nowadays is stuff you find on Twitter. It's 5 seconds. It's random. As random
yeah,
as possible. Random,
yeah.
random, random, random. I'm like,
Yeah.
random is nice, but
It's too
yeah.
much. It's too much.
But it's because she never got the chance to watch these things, develop
Yeah,
a sense of humor.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna show
Yep.
some things here. It says, yeah, the only place is HBO Max. And by the way, the Boomerang app, if you have that, because
Oh, they took it off HBO Max, by the way. They took all the Looney Tunes off.
I
You got to
thought
pay.
that was I thought that was I thought that was false.
Oh, it really is. I'll have to
I don't
look.
know. I'll have to look it up.
Yeah.
I have HBO Max. I usually, to be honest, I usually
Yeah.
watch just like the superhero stuff
Uh-huh.
and First Blood. That's like my all-time favorite movie. So I'll watch First Blood over and over again.
Okay.
That is what I'm a big Stallone fan. Always
Okay.
like those
You gotta see
80s
Tulsa
blow.
King.
What I have to get
Tulsa
Paramount
King.
Network for that.
It's
I'm
so good.
I'm
It's
gonna totally do it.
It's so good.
But you know what? September 22nd, the day after my crap, it'll be my 15-year wedding anniversary on the 21st. The 22nd of September, Expendables 4 comes out. I am such a huge fan of those Expendable movies. I just because it's like a throwback to my childhood.
Yeah, the 80s,
you know, Commando,
80s.
all those things, man. So good, so cheesy. It's watching John Wick, like you know, some days I just need to watch stuff blow up.
Yes. Yeah, and they forget that nowadays, and it's like that. And what I love about John Wick is the fact that the studios, they don't understand why it's so popular. They're just like, but I don't get it. It's like, don't worry about it. People do. Just the whole point of entertainment is if people like it, I'm going to give you more of that, and I can experiment. But if people like it, good. People don't like it, don't blame your audience. That's on you. Then you say, okay, let me try something else, and we don't get that now. Now it's you don't like it, you're a bad person.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Airplane, 18. Oh my
man.
God.
I never saw the movie that they made a few years back.
I don't need to watch that. I mean, the show was. I tried to rewatch the show, I just couldn't.
It's kind of listen, it's cheesy, but yeah, it was fun 80s stuff. Yeah. There was something I wanted to say. Oh, just speaking of all this humor, have you seen the commercials for Hulu starting March 6th? The History of the World Part 2?
Yeah, I'm hoping it's good. I'm hoping it's not Dracula Dead and loving it.
Yeah, well, here's the only reason I'm going to give it a chance. Mel Brooks is still alive.
Yes, I know.
And he's doing it.
He's a national treasure. I love that man. His son Max Brooks is also. I mean, I read not just World War Z. I read Extinction Parade. It's a horror comic he did where it's about what the vampires are doing during the zombie apocalypse.
Really?
And
I never read
so
that.
good. And he ended it because some studio bought the rights to make a TV show out of it, and they sat on it. And so now the book has been on hiatus since 2014. And it's so good. It's a horror. I'm warning you right now, it is a horror comic, and it is drawn in an incredibly dark and gritty and gory side. It's very gory, but it's so good.
Here's the thing, and I've said this before. I don't like horror on the screen. I'll read horror, but I don't like to see it coming at me on the screen. Same. So I'm not into horror movies. But you give me a horror comic, I'm
But yeah, go look it up. Extinction Parade. It's Max Brooks. He's the man when it comes to zombies. That's his thing.
That is great. That is great. That just sounds fantastic. Oh my God! It's and that's the other thing. I can sit and talk about Mel Brooks movies for hours. I love. I have his DVD collection in my living room, and it's I forget where it ended, which is in there, but yeah, it's so good. I used to pull it out and just do a day of Mel Brooks stuff.
History of the World Part 1.
Oh my God,
the jokes you can never get away with nowadays, but they're so good.
The same thing, in my closet, I have the complete collection of the Marx Brothers.
Oh,
and oh my God, I know some people don't like them; they find them boring or whatever. But there's wit to them.
The wordplay.
Like I was watching a Hanna-Barbera cartoon. I don't know if you remember Yogi's Treasure Hunt. It was back in the 80s. It was like 84, 85, something like that. And it was like all the animal characters, they'd get together and go on a mission to find some object or whatever and give it back to the person who belongs before Dick Dastardly and Muttley. And there was this one line that like you talk about wit.
Yeah.
that maybe I had to pause it and laugh because I was laughing so hard at it. It was just Snagglepuss getting ready to fight someone, and you know
Yeah.
how he talks, and I can't do his impression, but he's like, "Put up your dukes," and then
Yeah.
he's like, "And your duchesses," and oh my god, I laughed so hard at that
Yeah,
because
the
we're looking at the
wordplay.
80s, the wordplay.
Yeah, wordplay.
You know,
Oh yeah.
what was it in the Marx Brothers? I think it's in
Mhm.
Animal Crackers.
Uh-huh.
Um,
We
you
left
know,
New York drunk and early in the Monday morning.
oh no, not that. No. I was thinking of the one where he was like he was like making fun of the
Mhm.
English language. Like
Yeah.
he's like, no, I use the past tense there, and he's like, we're way past tense now. We're living in bungalows, and I'm just like, that was
Yeah,
just so
it was
good,
good stuff.
you
And
know.
again, it's like people would love it if they trusted themselves
Yeah,
to do it, but they're deathly afraid that
yeah,
the audience won't get it. And yeah, it's a big failure. But I will say this, and I do have to, unfortunately, I do have to go soon.
yeah. No, I was gonna say we're almost hitting the 2 hour mark. I
Yeah.
couldn't believe it.
So what it is that there's because of the internet now, you can bypass the big guys,
Yeah,
right? And if you can get your stuff out there, and then if it becomes a big hit, then the big guys will come knocking on your door. They'll
yeah,
come like, let's
exactly.
just take that, because people have not changed, right?
Mhm.
I was literally in. I go to these meetings, and these guys, and they'll sit there, and then, well, people don't like Superman anymore. I'm like, you mean to tell me Superman sold comics for 80 plus years, but all of a sudden they don't like him anymore? No, that's not. There's no way.
Yeah,
There's a reason we tell the same stories for hundreds, thousands of years
yeah,
because they resonate to people. There's a reason why people complain about the hero's journey. Do a movie without the hero's journey and watch people don't like it.
exactly,
They just don't like it, and
exactly.
because it appeals to some part of us. It appeals.
Yeah.
It's like it's just we feel this is how a story is supposed to go because we can all relate to that. The hero's journey is something we can all relate to, and
Well, we're a culture. Just
yeah.
our it's our
Mhm.
natural way of interacting with each other is through story. Just think
Story.
about when
Right.
you were home growing up and you're at the dinner table and your
Mhm.
parents said, "How was your day?" and you're like, "Fine," like,
Mhm.
and they tell me about your day. What are you
Right.
doing? You're telling them a story.
Yeah.
Even if you're cooking and you're watching a recipe, you're
Yeah.
learning about the story of how this food is made. It's
Yeah.
we're just all about stories. So for
Yes.
me, I've devoted my life to telling stories. I used
Mhm.
to teach on the college level a class called visual storytelling that
Oh wow.
I I basically developed the class. It changed since I developed it,
Mm.
but it used to be a different class. I said, no, we need something different. So
Mhm.
I came up with this. We ran it for a couple of years based exactly on what I had, and then
Mhm.
every now and then little changes were made. But it was primarily my course, and it was about the hero's journey. It was about studying this stuff. But my projects were simple. And
Yeah.
one of my first project I did with the students was basically a storyboard project,
Mhm.
but it was take whether they had their phone, their regular camera, take photos
Yeah.
of you doing something. Tell me a story and it could have been as simple as making breakfast.
Yeah.
And it's like, and then once you have all those photos, we're going to put it together in a situation that makes sense. Right.
Okay.
And one of them, like, I would say, don't think about just always from your point of view. Like we talked about camera angles. What about if you're going to make eggs, right? What
Yeah.
if you set your camera up in the fridge and you put it on a timer and you have your door open? You're looking for your eggs. You're grabbing your eggs. You're grabbing butter out of your fridge.
Mhm.
These are things that you could do to tell your story, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, what angles are going to be best? Because then we can take that and we can illustrate it. We can animate it. We can do whatever. And
Mhm.
usually that's what we do. We made a little animatic out of it. But yeah, so I'm like, we are a
Mhm.
culture. Our culture is story.
Yeah.
And people don't get it and they don't understand it.
Nope. They
And
just they. It's again as a whole, the conversation will be here all night, but
yeah,
it's literally, um, I'll put it like this: is you have people like this stuff got too popular, and so people from the finance world came in,
yeah,
and they're not. creative. And here's the thing, right? In the 70s and 80s, you had Alan Ladd, right?
Mhm.
And the thing about Alan Ladd is he knew, I'm going to let the creative people do their thing. Just do your thing and we'll figure it out, right? And that's why under his reign you got Star Wars and and Raiders of the Lost Ark. You had all these creative things, things happening. Nowadays you got people that literally go, well, I don't. They say their thing is, I don't get it. I don't understand why people like it. I don't get it at all. Or they're literally like, this is an evergreen franchise. It doesn't matter what we do, people will buy it anyway. And then they run into the ground and they go, wait, why aren't people buying it? And you're seeing it now with the Marvel stuff, how they're running it into the ground because they literally thought, like, real quick on the Star Wars thing, they literally thought that Star Wars fans will buy anything with the Star Wars name on it. And they said, it doesn't matter what we do. If you ever want to get a good example of this, go watch the documentary about how they made Alien 3.
Mm-hmm.
And the director, it was his first time directing, and he was trying to get a scene right. And one of the producers came up to him and said, what are you effing doing? This is aliens. You could put aliens on the wall and piss on it, and it'll make $40 billion. Get it done. And that was their attitude. And that's why the movie came out bad.
Yeah.
And that used to be the exception. Now it's the norm.
Mm-hmm.
But to leave it on hope, like I said,
there's
avenues for the people to bypass that system now. And we should take advantage of it.
Exactly. And on that note, we're going to end. I'm going to, first of all, thank you for coming on. I've had a lot of fun chatting. We definitely have to do it again. And we could probably do other topics. And I'm sure you and I seem to have the same mentality on the industry. So honestly, it could be a bitch fest. I hope not. But
well, let's put it like this. I try to, because I don't want to burn any bridges.
I feel the same way, but it is what it is. Anyway, I'm going to drop you backstage. Hold on for a few minutes. All right. But thanks again for coming on. We got a couple of people. What do we got? That was a lot of fun to listen to and chat to. Thanks. I'm glad you guys all tuned in. Let me drop you backstage. I'll do my wrap up and I'll see you in a moment.
No problem.
All right.
Bye, guys.
Bye. All right, guys. So really, that was a lot of fun. I honestly did not think we were going to hit the 2-hour mark today. But man, Derwin's so much fun to chat with. I mean, the knowledge, the information, his work is gorgeous to look at, man. And some of you guys were his students. You guys super lucky to have him. But anyway, I'll be back next week with another guest next Wednesday, 9 p.m. If you can, please like and follow, subscribe. And I will also be this Saturday. Like I said, I'll believe at noon. Follow me on my social media. It's just my name at Michael Gracia. I'll be letting you know when the Poe Park event is happening. It's this Saturday in the Bronx at Poe Park, and we will. Arlen Schumer, I believe, noon. Ray Felix is watching, so hopefully Ray could put in the comments. I believe it's noon, but we'll see. Anyway, I will. Ray, we're closing out for the night. We just hit 2 hours. Oh no, it was canceled. Thanks for letting me know, Ray. So everything I just said, please forget about. If you watched the show last night, forget I mentioned it as well. All right. Anyway, I will see you guys next week. Don't come see me Saturday but go to the event anyway. It's got the artwork's up for a little longer. So you guys, anyway, I will see you later. Thanks again for tuning in. Oh, and follow at the Wiz Comic WIZ. So it's at THEWIZCOMIC. Every Wednesday is Wiz Wednesday. I will see you later. Bye, guys.